Hey everyone, my name's Daniel Neal, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about an article I read called The Impact of Electric Vehicles on the Power Utility Grid, and basically whether it's positive or negative. This presentation is part of the contemporary article presentations. This one's number 2 for Capstone 2 ET 499, and the article was written by Sibi Krishnan, and I found it on allaboutelectricvehicles.com. So, intro. The chargers for an electric vehicle basically convert the electric energy from the power grid to DC energy to charge the vehicle battery. Most utilize unidirectional chargers, and they basically place a direct load on the power grid, which is a problem since electric vehicles pose a large load. For example, electric vehicle batteries are usually roughly 60 kilowatt hours, which charges on average like 80% in 6 hours. And you do the math, and therefore it consumes 8 kilowatt hours per hour while charging. And this was a key point of the article, considering the average household typically uses less than 5 kilowatt hours a day. So a vehicle uses a significant amount of power compared to everyday power consumption for a normal family. This peak load I got from the article itself, and basically it just shows you the peak load times, which is primarily in the evening. You can see in the summer there's a little more of a spike, probably due to more air conditioners and stuff being run, and in the winter, it's dark early, so people use the lights more versus any other time of the day. The problem is that the peak load time is typically when everyone's getting home from work in the evening, and unfortunately this is also when everyone's going to be plugging in their vehicles to be ready for the next day. And now you already have a peak load, like a high power demand in the evening, and now you're adding electric vehicles which consume a large amount of power on top of that. So that's basically what this article is talking about and what the problem is. So during peak load times decrease the load factor of the grid, and basically that's just the ratio of the average load to the maximum load at any specific point in time. The peak time demand increases the current in the power lines, and essentially causes the voltage drop and losses in the transmission lines and the transformers, therefore causing the total network voltage to drop during peak load. And this is really seen without the addition of electric vehicles charging. So this is only going to get worse as more and more electric vehicles start popping up out across the country. Basically, many grids are going to struggle to meet the power demands with the increase of electric vehicle charging taking place primarily at the same time as the peak load. So the solution to this is to move away from the unidirectional chargers and go towards bidirectional converters, which allow energy to flow to and from the car battery. And basically this allows the car to act as a micro generator when plugged into the charging station during peak times. During peak hours, the vehicle will supply power to the grid, and then which will ease power demand. And then once you're off peak hours and the power demand drops while everyone's sleeping, the vehicle will switch over, act as a load on the system, and be fully charged for you in the morning. This is predicted to help both the vehicle owners as well as the utility companies, since the utility companies won't be struggling to meet the power demand during the peak hours, and vehicle owners won't suffer any consequences of, say, if there's like not enough power to go around and all of a sudden there's blackouts or something. This could potentially help them with that. So climate change and electric vehicles. Electric vehicles essentially eliminate greenhouse gases that would otherwise be released from fossil fuel burning vehicles. The only problem is that a lot of these charging stations, especially the ones you see out driving around in public, are powered either directly from the grid, which most likely is coming from some sort of power plant, or I've seen around Bangor area, you'll see a diesel generator sitting 30 yards behind the charging station that's obviously running them. So you're physically not burning fossil fuels in your vehicle, but the power that's charging it is burning fossil fuels. So I kind of see that as not really kind of breaking even. Like, you're not burning the fuel, but you're still using power that was produced from it. I just think there's still a lot to consider, even though the idea of an electric vehicle sounds perfectly green. I think we just need to look into technology to see if there's a way to decrease fossil fuels producing that power, see if there's ways to have those charging stations run completely on renewables. I'm sure this has already been looked into, but this article didn't really specify any of that. So, in summary, electric vehicles can be good for the environment, but depending on how they're charged and where your power comes from, it can still have some negative effects. The technology can still be greatly improved and will need to be for widespread electric vehicle use, since currently the majority of power grids in the US are not ready to accept a big spike in EV use, and they'll all need to be upgraded to be able to handle larger power loads, which will be needed in order to charge all the vehicles. Unless everything switched over to bi-directional, which it looks like they could be in the future, but even with those, you're still going to have bigger, a much larger grid to supply the power needed. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And here's my cited references slide. Thank you.